Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line about this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Reach out to me for pricing at tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing an update. The Blancpain 50 Fathoms launched in 2018. Of course, the basic reference 5015 came out in 2007. This lovely matte finished titanium case came out in 2018. Now, this is the Cadillac of divers, and in my opinion, it is as good as dive watches get. It's also one of the originals, launched in 1953, a few months before the Rolex Submariner. It established all of the modern conventions for what a dive watch should be, and it is one of the all-time greats in the industry. It is also far more luxurious than any Rolex, and in my opinion, even better than a Royal Oak offshore diver. Let's see why. So this watch in titanium is 45 millimeters in diameter, 15.6 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, a reasonable 50.8 millimeters. 23 millimeters is the spacing between the lugs. We'll throw the watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and it's very comfortable. Being exceptionally light, it's all sapphire and titanium. It wears well. You can also see it is a good fit. Now, I wouldn't wear this watch on a wrist smaller than 15 centimeters, but this actually fits well enough that I would consider buying it, and I'm definitely thinking about it. I like the blue dial. Some like the more traditional black dial. Both versions exist. Each one wears the same, and I really do think that on a 15 centimeter circumference wrist, because of the weight in titanium and the short lug-to-lug distance, you're going to like what you see and feel. The strap is sailcloth, super durable. It should last at least a decade. It's black, it's textile, it's a little bit bolstered to give it some volume. It has a folded edge monotone stitch, and then there's rubber on the underside to isolate your wrist from the coarse textile material, but also to protect the material from the sweat, grit, and moisture of your wrist. Now you can see Blancpain did things the right way. We have hex bolts to fix the strap in place. Better to see this in conjunction with bars than a spring bar setup, which, while cheap to assemble, is also a little bit more fragile. Bars and screws, very happy to see. Now, we have the name of the company on the case flank, but you'll note, unlike the standard 5015, which is all of high polish and maybe a little bit too glam for some, this uses a subtle vertical satination. There's also a brushed satination on the lug hoods, so it's more of a muted look. The bezel has a nice chunky knurling that's easy to grip, even if your hands might be wet, sweaty, or gloved. Has a very notchy and chunky bezel action, and the bezel is covered by a sapphire, which means all of the lume on the bezel is protected by a sapphire. As a result, this bezel can be lumed in its entirety, so it's a very easy watch to read in the dark, and you can even appreciate how easy it is to set your dive time in the dark because the bezel pearl really stands out, being larger than it needs to be. Jumping back to the dial of the watch, you can see it too is covered by generously cambered and domed sapphire. It's a black base. We have applique quarter Arabic numerals, as well as dart-style indices. There's plenty of lume. We had a lovely set of hybrid broadsword syringe hands placed at center. The dial is reasonably matte in finish, and it doesn't have much glare. We also have an intermediate date, and that the date doesn't replace one of the hour indices, and I like that. The watch does feature a quick set system, so you can rapidly set the date should you wish to. It also includes a quick set hacking tandem, so you can stop the seconds if you wish to set the watch against a reference time. The crown is enormous, sharply knurled, and easy to grip. We have some spare and elegant shear guards for that crown. Then we turn the watch over and we have caliber 1315. Early versions of this watch included solid case backs and iron covers inside the case to make them anti-magnetic. Now we have a silicone hairspring and we have a display case back to enjoy. The movement is based on the 13 RO dress watch caliber, which is both very accurate and long-legged. Here we have automatic winding, 3 barrels, and 120-hour 5-day power reserve. It's adjusted in 6 positions, one more than a standard chronometer, and as you can see, it beats away at a high beat rate, 28,800 vibrations per hour. That is known as high beat in the industry, and it's free-sprung for durability. It also has those variable inertia bolts recessed into the balance for improved aerodynamics to pare down aerodynamic drag. Again, free sprung for shock resistance and a silicone hairspring for anti-magnetism. It's a 35 joule movement with a modern finish. 3 barrels do more than just give you a long power reserve. With 3 barrels, you don't get the big drop-off in amplitude that happens after 24 hours or 48 hours with even a long power reserve single barrel movement. Those tend to have a lot of fluctuation in balance amplitude and torque. There's not much of a fluctuation when you have 3 staggered barrels, with the torque curves of each spring staggered so that it's reasonably consistent from max wind to minimum wind. Lots to love. 300 meters water resistant, a lovely spiral graining across the bridges rather than Côte de Genève, which would look out of place on this modern watch. Black polished screws with chamfered slots in circumference, solarization on the ratchet wheel, satination on other wheels, mile wide anglage, and I really do mean a mile wide. It's broad, beautiful, and mirrored. It's better than what you get on a lot of watches costing 5 times as much. And this watch is the full package, aesthetically, technically, and historically. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.